Hello, everybody. Welcome in week 2 of the Casual Sports Podcast, only on ysnlive.com. And I'm Alec Berna. This week, Matt Morrison, Mike Wolfgang. Mike will be on the show Monday, Thursday, Friday this week, not Tuesday, Wednesday. So if you want Matt and I's high school recap, you have to wait till tomorrow to do that. Also coming out tomorrow, the Casual Sports Podcast, College Football Top 10. That's how we're kicking off the show tomorrow. So you're going to hear our thoughts on who the top 10 teams in college football are, and it should be an interesting discussion. Unfortunately, Mike won't be here to back up his point, so he might just have to type us out a few things to say on the show for him.
I'll give you my input.
Well, don't worry, but you will hear everything we have to think about that. And let's kick things off the way we always do, boys. Question of the day from last Friday. Who was the oldest person at the time of their induction into the Pro Football Hall of Fame? The answer to that one, Ed Sable. But your question of the day for today: what was the longest touchdown run in a Super Bowl? Your options: 67 yards, 75 yards, 81 yards, 90 yards, or 97 yards. Tune in tomorrow to hear whether or not you know your stuff or you don't, It is what it is. But what we're going down today, let's give the rundown real quick before we hop into it. We're going to be previewing tonight's Packers versus Lions game. Should be an interesting one with all the ups and downs of the Packers. We'll get into that. We got Rams versus Colts. It was a pretty good game, and surprisingly, the Colts stuck in it till the end there. Raiders, Steelers leaving some big question mark for the Steel City. Bengals and the Bears gave us an interesting game. It was close down the way. Dalton out. He was injured. We had a lot of quarterback injuries yesterday.
A lot of injuries overall.
Man. That's for sure. Texans, Browns, Baker, Mayfield, and Chubb. Back in sync, it almost looks like. They're still a little bit out, but another big loss from Cleveland. And we'll get into some college football stuff. Bama, Florida nearly gave us a huge upset. Auburn versus Penn State lived up to the hype in Happy Valley. Cincinnati versus Indiana, the Bearcats and the Fightin' Fickles taking it. We'll also talk about Travion Recordson, is what I'm calling him, as he did some great things for Ohio State this past Saturday. One of the few bright spots in that game. We can talk baseball playoff picture. And Buccaneers acquiring a new cornerback, potentially.
Possibly.
Potentially.
He's old, but man, the guy is a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah,
at least he was when he was young.
And we're unveiling our newest award today as well, so make sure to stay tuned for that until the very end. We're on 2 to 3 weekdays on YSN, so you get to hear our happy voices every day of the week.
Plus, if you listen to us call, too.
Oh, yeah, we'll talk more about that tomorrow and later this week. So let's kick things off. Packers versus Lions here tonight. Guys, what are your thoughts going into this one?
It's an interesting one, like you said. We'll see if the Packers get back on track. It's a good game for them to get back on track after that Week 1 collapse they had.
Right, 38-3 against the Saints. Jameis Winston barely had any passing yards. It was like 160 against them, and he still had 5 passing touchdowns. So really, the Saints had great starting field position for the majority of that ball game. That's why those numbers are so low. And they got a rough patch coming up here too. Lions obviously are predicted to be one of the worst teams in football this year. So they'll go up against the Niners, Steelers, and Bengals the next 3 weeks. So those 3 teams combined could give them some struggles as we see Joe Burrow and the Bengals really kind of finding a momentum. The Steelers, despite the loss last night, still are a good team to go up against, a very strong defense. And the 49ers look, good too. So, this is a real test match for Green Bay if they can find that rhythm going up against those next 3 teams. It needs to start here. On the flip side of it, though, Detroit Lions obviously put up a close one against the Niners. It was 41-33. Jared Goff is their new quarterback. They were throwing it all over the place. 57 pass attempts, 338 yards, 3 touchdowns for him. So a defense that just got whipped on by the, Jameis Winston and the Saints with points-wise going up against Jared Goff, who we know can score the football and can move the ball efficiently.
We've seen it in Los Angeles. And, he might be the factor in this game because this matchup the past decade has this been boring to watch. Like every time you say, Packers Lions, you think, it's going to be a blowout.
Anytime you hear the Lions in a sentence, you're like, why am I even watching this?
Lions. Why am I watching this? But it might be, it might be different than
if you know anything about Aaron Rodgers like we do about his career, it's not likely that he has another collapse like he did in the first game.
Yeah.
We expect him to come out and bounce back from that terrible performance he had and the whole team had. So that's something to look forward to tonight. And it's a big division match between the 2 teams. Not really for the Lions, but...
Yeah, I think it's a good game for the Lions, though. If they can steal a win here, considering, the Packers are a team that everyone was like, oh, they could have a shot at the NFC this year. Aaron Rodgers, the last dance season with him or whatever, they wanted to call it before the year. And they come out game one so flat. Then, they come in here. If the Lions can keep them, reeling in this entire ball game, we could have a chance where we see the Lions win it. I mean, they'll have a tough matchup against the Ravens, but really, they have the Bears and the Vikings coming up. We don't know much about the Bears and how they are. The Vikings have had 2 close games back-to-back weeks, so you never know where the Lions are going to go from here. I mean, they could split this very easily, go 2-2, or they can go 0-4.
I mean,
there's a chance they can go 3-1 here, 4-0 if they can put this together. I don't think they can beat the Ravens, but I don't think they could beat the Packers, but they have a chance to. If they beat the
Packers, then they can sure as hell beat the Ravens.
I don't know about that one.
We'll see.
One team lost 38-3. One just beat the Chiefs. So
we'll get into it.
Yeah.
But you look at the Lions though. They got the Bears, like you said, the Vikings, and the Bengals coming up. So those are 3 games they could win or have a better chance of winning as opposed to the Packers and the Ravens. So. It's a decent stretch for them coming up. Yeah,
a stretch where they can most likely at least go 2-2, depending on how they play against the Bears. Whether or not the Bears, can find something, and if Justin Fields works out as quarterback for them, we'll talk more about the Bears upcoming here. But it's a very close game. So tonight, 8:15, guys. What are your predictions? Green Bay, Detroit. Who takes it home, Mike?
So I like the Packers for all the reasons I just mentioned. I don't think. You would think in their home opener coming out after that Week 1 collapse, you think the Packers would come out rolling. I think it might be close for like a quarter or so, but I think as it goes on, the Packers are going to roll over them. So I like them, and also because the Lions aren't very good. So
yeah, I gotta go. Even though they had a horrible performance, I say Aaron Rodgers bounces back and they beat Detroit.
Ooh, all right. Well, I'm actually going the other way on this. I like Detroit in this. I haven't seen anything out of Green Bay in that first game. Even their preseason games, you really don't need to look at preseason, but I never saw anything about this team that made them look good. I think this is a team that looks worse than, the Bengals, who look like they could be a good team this year. They look worse than the Bears, if we're being honest. Green Bay does not look like a good team. Aaron Rodgers does not look like a good quarterback anymore. We know he is traditionally, but we've also seen as quarterbacks get up in age, even though he had an MVP season last year, does not mean he's going to have one this year. There's nothing saying that he's going to have a back-to-back good year. I don't think he's what he once was. We're even look at Cam Newton, a guy who was young coming off MVP seasons, can't do anything. He got cut for Mac Jones, who's having a great season so far. We'll get into that later on this week. But I'm liking the young Jared Goff. I like the run game from Detroit. They have 2 great backs on the ground in Swift and Williams, who I think are really going to tear it up. We haven't seen Green Bay's defense do much of anything when it comes to stopping another offense. The offense can't produce enough to even, pin a team deep and make them drive the length of the field. So the defense is getting worn out in about 30 seconds and, 5 plays because they're back out there after 3 and out, 1 first down. The offense isn't possessing the ball long enough to give that defense enough time to re-strategize. I think Detroit comes in, and I think they take this thing in the late stages in the 4th quarter.
We shall see.
Yep. All right, well, that's game 1. That's tonight. Let's get into it from this weekend. Rams, Colts. It was a pretty good game, and I don't think any of us thought it was going to be this close. With the way Stafford produced in Week 1, he didn't have the same numbers, but the Rams still came out top 27-24. Stafford went 19-30, 278 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. On the ground, Darrell Henderson put up 13 carries, 53 yards, touchdown, and Sony Michel 10 carries, 46 yards. It really kind of seemed like another okay game from the Rams. It
was enough.
It was enough to win. You'd like to see them do more. If you go back to that performance they had against the Bears, you're really liking when you look at 20-26 from Stafford and 70 yards on the ground for Darrell Henderson. So, he kind of replicated his performance on the ground. You like to see him get a little bit more too. But the ground game stayed consistent. The pass game, a little off, but just about the same. I think we're still waiting for the big playability of this squad because we know they have it. Cooper Kupp.
He's awesome.
If you had him in fantasy, you were a happy camper. 9 receptions, 163 yards, and 2 touchdowns. What a performance. And Stafford to Kupp is going to be, we talked next duo in the NFL. I wouldn't go so far as say Stafford and Kupp couldn't be that next 2-piece to really take over the league.
You talked about Matt Stafford, Alec. He was clutch at the end. setting up those. I mean, they scored twice at the end to make it 27-24 to win. So that's something to be happy about if you're a Rams fan.
Yeah, and one thing out of this ball game is this is the NFL. Anybody can win. Both these teams come into the stack, so it's not like you see one squad go, oh, well, this team's so much better. I mean, you look at the Rams. They did enough in the first to win it, but you need more in the second. They lost the second half of this game by 1 point.
Yeah.
The Colts just couldn't get enough done in that first half to make it, a competition. So you get into this, long stretch in the second half of this game. It's so hard to score in the NFL against some amazing defenses, and the Colts couldn't put it together. They're now 0-2, but I think we're still waiting for the next Rams guy to step up. We know Stafford, we know Henderson, we know Kupp. Who is that next guy
is there one more
to
guy?
Help out on that offense? Because I think that's what they need. I think they're missing just one piece to the puzzle, and they obviously have Aaron Donald on defense, and man, what a beast that guy is, and reigning defensive player of the year. So we know they have a good defense. It's just who is that next guy on offense? Who's their second star on defense?
They also have Sony Michel. He could very well be that. They picked him up from the Patriots. I mean, he did good yesterday too. 10 carries, 46 yards. He's a great, third guy, but I like the Robert Woods. I think they need to get him the ball a little bit more.
Yeah, he's a fast player.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but just one more guy that makes a slight difference, and a good athlete, a good playmaker. That's one thing that if you say they're missing, they can benefit from.
On the flip side of this, Matt, you've never been too high on Carson
No.
Wentz. You don't like him.
No.
He had an all right performance. He actually went out injured now, dealing with 2 ankle sprains. And Jacob Easton came in. He didn't really show much. He came out of Washington a few seasons ago. Yeah. Went to a 525 yards and an interception. Wentz on his side, he played most of the game. So, they were able to show things off down the stretch. 20 of 31, 247, touchdown, interception. Jonathan Taylor on the ground, though, is still struggling. 15 carries, 51 yards. And out of a guy that's supposed to have such a big jump going from year 1 to year 2, he showed a lot of big things for the Colts last season. We're not seeing that same thing here this season. Why do you guys think that is? Offensive line?
Offensive line,
that's
maybe.
What you probably point to when a running back kind of declines.
I mean, even if you look at Hines, who was a big asset last year, he didn't do too much here either.
Marlon Mack was only averaging 3.2 yards per carry. The only person that had anything over 5 yards per carry was Carson Wentz on 5 carries for 37 yards. But the one thing, if you get the Colts a rushing touchdown in this game, they win it.
Yeah.
If you look at it that way, they find it on the ground, they can win this ball game. They obviously had plenty of success with the air with Michael Pittman, 8 receptions and 123 yards, but he didn't score either. It came off Zach Pascal, who had the only touchdown reception of the game. So, it's still a lot of back and forth, and Rodrigo Blankenship, led the team in scoring with 10 points. So, there's a lot of improvement that the Colts can make, and the fact they were able to hold to the Rams here without a rushing touchdown and just 1 passing touchdown, I think shows a lot of how good this team can be with their defense, but they need more on offense.
This is
I think they knew that last year when they were having Jacoby Brissett run the team. They're like, we need a bigger quarterback. We need a better quarterback. We know we are this close to being able to at least compete here. We need to put the pieces together to get us back to that status.
Yeah, and like you said, Carson Wentz wasn't terrible yesterday, and he had that little injury he had going on, and like you said, if you had those 3 running backs and they all had averaged at best numbers, you probably point that towards the offensive line.
Right.
It's all 3 guys going across, and guys that have been good in the past and are starting to see numbers decline a little bit. But there's
even if you give JT
improvement.
another 25 yards in that game, if he can pick up another 25, we're talking the difference between a 3 and out versus a touchdown in the way a drive can go. So if you can open that rush game up just a little bit more, give him a little bit more space, get that extra push. You're talking about a team that could have won this game, I think.
They were right there. They lost by 3. They were right there. And if it wasn't for some late scores by the Rams, they're there.
They won the second half.
Definitely.
You know how we were talking about the third guy a little bit on the Rams? I think they need to find their third guy over here, too.
I think they need to find their first guy first.
We
don't know if that's Wentz, Pittman, or JT. They haven't established a strong portion of the game. Obviously, Pittman had a good game today, but I think we're waiting for the Colts to establish. We know they have guys that can be first. It's just who do they establish as their guy? You look at the Browns, who is their guy? Baker Mayfield. You could argue Chubb out of the backfield, but at the end of the day, who's the face of this franchise? And You see
Baker
any
Mayfield.
sort of advertising, whatever. Who is the guy, the man, the dude? It's Baker.
It's Baker.
Who is that going to be for the Colts? Who is their, established leader? I mean, Baker's not the best guy on the Browns' offense or defense by any stretch of the imagination. I think you could say Chubb, Jarvis, Hunt, Odell, all on offense.
But he's the
than him,
most recognizable and he's the most
exactly.
He's the one getting the ball to those guys.
Not always consistently, but he does it.
He does it.
And
You still have some issues with that.
right. And we're waiting for
But who does?
the Colts to be able to show who is their Baker, who is their established leader, who is that guy.
I mean, you would think it'd be Carson Wentz. That's what they were all hyped
Right.
up about.
You would think it would be, and he's looked okay through the first 2 games. But obviously, with the new quarterback, you don't jump off right away. Give him some time, much like Dalton with the Bears or any of these rookies here. You're not going to jump off them after 2 games. You got to let them flow in. But when we're looking down the line, week 5, 6, 7, 8, that's when you need to see that jump out of Wentz here with the Colts.
That's around the time you need these things. I mean, if hopefully they can put it together by.
Well, because that's hitting right before the trade deadline as well. So, because that happens week 7, 8, or 9? Right in there, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it might change with the extra game this year, but somewhere in there.
So, I mean, figure it out by that trade deadline. Who else do I need to get you? Do I need a new offensive line? Do I need another running back there? Do a tight end maybe?
Tight end.
Carson Wentz did pretty good with a good tight end with the Eagles, and Zach Ertz.
And they have Jack Doyle. Now
who's a good tight end.
He's good.
Right.
He's a good tight
5
end.
receptions, 64 yards, second leading receiver for them. So, I mean, it's one of those things. What else do I need to get them? Do they need a new defensive guy to go up there and, match up against some other great defensive lines? So, I mean, it's still a figuring out process for the Colts, but this was definitely a good game for them, whether or not they lost it.
Yeah, I mean, there's questions that potentially could get answered as we move on, but there's still some things to keep an eye on with them.
For sure. And next game here on the slate, Las Vegas is kind of making some, headways here. One of the last 2 remaining 2-0 teams in the AFC. Las Vegas, then
their division opponent.
Broncos.
Yeah.
Broncos.
So, Broncos and Raiders, the 2 undefeated teams in the AFC.
Like we all predicted.
Exactly, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Not the Steelers, the Browns, the Ravens, the Chiefs. Any of those, the Bills, the Patriots.
Yeah.
I mean, we're looking at so many other teams that should be 2-0. And so we got the Raiders and the Broncos. What year is it?
20 years ago, maybe?
Right. I think you might have to go back farther than those are the only 2, the 2 quote-unquote best teams in the division. Not that they are. But, the record says they are. So, at the moment, all you have to do is keep that record up. And Matt and I talked Derek Carr elite status last week. 28 of 37, 382, 2 touchdowns. What's saying he's not elite? I mean, that's another great game for them. They had an okay first half. Second half, though, came out with 17 points and matched your total from the game on the Steelers side of things.
Yeah, I mean, this is another instance. They're kind of similar to the Colts, maybe a better version of it because the jury was. I don't think it was out on Derek Carr, but a lot of people weren't giving him the credit he deserved. I mean, you look at his numbers the last few years; he is elite by that standard. And
statistically, yes. The question is he actually in that elite category, or is he just able to put up the numbers of that?
And I mean, other than him,
this is the game that shows that he is.
Like, their offense has been a little weird with their play calling. So I mean, are some things that kept them kind of out of it the last year or so. But it seems like they're kind of getting things back on track now. And we'll see if it continues.
And one thing I really like from this game. Go to the stats from Derek Carr's wide receivers.
Yep.
Top 4 receivers all had 5 receptions. Ruggs, 5 receptions, 113 yards and a touchdown. Darren Waller, 5 receptions, 65 yards. Renfro, 57 yards. Kenyon Drake, 46 yards. They're bringing Kenyon Drake out of the backfield. He couldn't do much in the run department, but, getting 46 yards through the air can help out in a big way. And anyone that follows Ohio State football knows that Urban Meyer used to use those swing passes, those screens, as another part of their run game. Getting your stars out in space and letting them work when they can't establish something behind that offensive line. And Ohio State had to do that, and at times it helped them be a better team. At other times it hurt them. But if you can get your best players involved out of their original spots and they can still perform, it's only going to help your team, and obviously it did.
We were talking about last week where he was just throwing the Waller the whole time. He needs to get out to Ruggs. He needs to get out to Renfro. That's what he did here.
I mean, we look at the next guy, Brian Edwards, 3 receptions, 40 yards, and
he found other people on the field, and look what they did.
I mean, we talked about when we were make our predictions for this game on Friday. I mean, like you said, Matt, it'd be nice to see them move the ball around, and they definitely did that. I mean, they have the athletes to move it around. They have options, plenty of options for Derek Carr. So I mean, hopefully they can keep doing this.
I'm saying they need to find Ruggs, they need to find Renfro, and that's what they did.
And one other guy found for 2 receptions, Derek Carr threw it to Derek Carrier. I just think that was funny. I had to put it out there, so And the defense stepped up great. You got Trayvon Mullen with the interception in the game, and Daniel Carson at 14 points from kicking. He would have been a great addition to anybody's fantasy teams last night. So I mean, it was a good night for the Raiders. They're definitely showing themselves that in John Gruden's long tenure here that he's going to have with that 10-year contract he signed 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So he's in year 3 of that mega deal, and they now started the season off with back-to-back wins against the AFC North. I mean, that was a season that people were looking at like, oh, that's an 0-2 start. And right now, I mean, they take the Dolphins on next week. We don't know the status of Tua. He has an injury. There was no significant damage to his ribs, but it's just all about pain and whether or not he'll be ready to go in Las Vegas here next Sunday. And then you look at this Raiders schedule. I mean, Dolphins, Chargers, Bears. That's a nice way for them to get rolling. You don't want to say bad things about the Dolphins because they look like a pretty good team so far, and Chargers are still looking like they're finding themselves. Herbert's still a good young quarterback, and I think it's that Bears matchup you look at here, Week 5. It's like this is the make or break game for Chicago, but the Raiders might come in this one, as a 4-0 team, a 3-1 team. They could be pretty, damn good at that point.
And then after that, they got the Broncos, the team.
Right, the other 2-0 team, who we'll talk about later this week as well.
Absolutely.
But, Derek Carr put on a spectacular performance. You look at the other side, his counterpart didn't. No. Big Ben, he might be big, but he ain't good anymore. 27 of 42, 95 yards, touchdown, interception. Najee Harris still can't run the football behind your offensive line.
No.
Who's just kind of falling apart, it seems. They just can't get any sort of movement out of this offense. Deontay Johnson, who left the game injured in the last
which was, I don't know why they put him in. The game was lost. Why do you have him on the field? It's not like you were going to win the game. You were down by double digits.
It was the last play of the game, I think.
Yeah. Why would you put him in?
It was like the same thing with having Myles Garrett in at the same, in that last play against Mason Rudolph where he beat him with the helmet. It's like there was no reason he should have been on the field for that, and it happened. But, Najee Harris getting your lone touchdown reception of the game. Deontay Johnson, 105 yards on 9 receptions. Where's the touchdown? Claypool, 70 yards, no touchdown. I mean, Juju was right behind, had less receiving yards than Harris.
All these guys, I hate to say it, and you look at Pat Fryermuth, 4 receptions.
But like that,
all these guys,
tight end.
Yeah, all these guys are second and third guys. They don't have a number 1 guy.
And I said this about the Steelers all last season. People were like, well, they got Juju. I'm like, Juju is not a number 1 wide receiver. Tell me his one good year. He was the number 2 wide receiver to Antonio Brown, who's arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL right now. Arguably, I think there's some guys that could challenge him for that spot. But, I mean, he's getting the ball thrown to him by Tom Brady. But you guys do not have a number 1. Whether that's going to be Juju, Chase, or Deontay, one of them needs to, assert themselves and go, hey, I am the guy. Because until you have the guy, you won't win the game.
No.
And Matt, to talk about the running game for a second, we were talking about.
The only way, he found his way. Like, it wasn't blocking. He got a rare block that was, he made his way. Like, he didn't get any blocking at all. He was just using his skill to get down the field. And I kind of dive for that touchdown.
I was kind of telling you and some other people I know that are Steelers fans when they drafted Najee Harris. That's the one thing that concerned me is like their offensive line. They watched some guys. They didn't really fix it a whole lot in the draft. So that's what I was really concerned about. Yeah, Najee Harris is a freak athlete. He's gonna get his numbers, but he could be better if he had a better offensive line.
I know.
That's what worried about me when they drafted him.
Yeah, I know. Then on the defensive side, by halftime you're down 4 starters because of groin injuries. They need to fire whoever's taking care of that department. You're down TJ, you're down Devin Bush.
They need to fire whoever's in charge of the groin department?
Yeah. Okay. There's a groin coach.
Athletic trainers. I'll help you out here.
Now fire the groin coach.
Fire him. Yeah,
I think Robert Kraft knows some good people to bring in for that job.
Shut up. Stephon Tuitt's already down. I mean, Cameron Hayward was doing everything by himself, and I mean, that really showed. He didn't do too much.
Yeah.
It was just bad.
How about Boswell, though, hitting along at 56 yards last night in that game? Nice shot from him.
The only one that was doing pretty good is because Robert Spillane, and you know why? Because he's bad, and they target him because he's gonna get. So that's why he has all the tackles. They target the worst player on the field, and he's gonna get the tackles.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely things
to work on
and be concerned about.
Then we got a right guard spitting in people's faces.
That's a tough game, though, against
It's not expected to... There were no suspensions or fines expected to come of either players from the Rams or the Steelers. I was just on my phone. I saw
stood up for that, too. He said Turner was spit on first.
Yeah. So, whatever.
Yeah.
This is a big game here.
A big game, I think, next week that will really tell who's going to take this spot or take the lead here in the AFC North, putting on Bengals-Steelers.
That's what damn.
This isn't a matchup people I think we're really expecting to be as prevalent as was this early in the season, but with the way JB and the Cincinnati Bengals are rolling along,
they were playing in close games. I mean, they're hanging in games,
and the way the Steelers have kind of not been playing well. I mean, this is one of those games where you're like, man, the Bengals have a good chance. The Bagels. But this is I think a really good game that the Bengals can take this game out from underneath the Steelers and really. Solidify themselves as, hey, you know what? The talk's been all Ravens, Steelers, and Browns. How about us? Who
They gotta win gotta win these divisions. Sorry, Mike. I know they have like the toughest schedule in the NFL, so I know they're gonna lose. They're not gonna win every game. They're not the team to do that. They're gonna lose some games, but you gotta win these divisions.
When you talk about that, Matt, like even last week with the Bills, I mean. Yeah, it was a good win on the road, but it wasn't impressive. I mean, the Bills just kind of played worse than they did. And I even told you guys last year when they started 11-0, they didn't do anything that impressed me.
No.
They didn't really play anybody good. I mean, yeah, they had to still win the games, but they weren't impressive. So I mean, the Steelers are a weird team.
Yeah, they're weird. I mean, I still love them to death. That's my team, but they got so many problems. They just gotta fix it.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of the Cincinnati Tigers, they took on the Bears this past Sunday, lost 20-17, and despite a 17-point second half, they didn't score in the first, and that's what ultimately lost the game for them. I mean, if you look at the Bears, they didn't score anything in the second and third, just the one touchdown in the first quarter, and it was enough, though. I mean, Joe Burrow, 3 interceptions on 3 straight passes.
Yeah.
The last one wasn't his fault, whatever, say it however you will, but you can't do that. 3 straight interceptions, it kills you. It ruins momentum. It ruins your chances to win a football game.
And they only lost by 3.
Just that.
Right. They only lost by 3, so...
If you take away one of those interceptions and make that a scoring drive, we're looking at a game that's either 20-20 or 24-20,
Yeah.
It's that what-if moment. They got Joe Mixon involved, but we know they have a terrible offensive line. They couldn't open the holes for him, and he only got 69 yards, which is pretty nice, I would say.
Yeah.
But, unable to really make those big plays and get downfield. I mean, we saw Jamar Chase go off week 1. He didn't have that same performance. He had a touchdown on 2 receptions, but just 2 receptions and 54 yards. T. Higgins, 6 for 60 with a touchdown. And Tyler Boyd was 7 for 73. No touchdowns from him. But it just feels like this wasn't the same Bengals team we saw week 1. And now here week 2 against the Bears team that's still finding itself. They couldn't really find the end zone.
Yeah.
It didn't look like they had the right things on offense. I mean, defense was okay. I don't think you should be letting up 20 points to the Bears. But, any week you let up 20 points or less is a good week for defense. We said it week 1, going over all these teams. Both defenses held the other team 20 points or less. It's just a matter of which offense at that point can make the right play at the right time. And the Bears scoring first in that ball game was the right play at the right time. They had the only touchdown in the first half. And that ultimately, led them to be able to have an easier second half in which they only needed 13 points to win this, which they got in that final quarter.
Yeah, and here's your favorite stat, Alec. They didn't score in the first quarter or the second quarter. So the whole first half they didn't score. So that's kind of where they shot themselves in the foot. And
just 3 points in the third. If you turn one of those interception drives into a score, you're talking about even 6-10 points in that third quarter.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that you need to be able to find the end zone more. You can say the same thing on the flip side of this about the Bears. Going to get Andy Dalton 9 of 11, 56 yards and a touchdown before he goes out. But 9 completions for 56 yards?
Yeah.
That, frankly, is awful.
Yeah.
You're getting less than, what's that? Around 5 yards per reception.
5, 6.
Fields came in and had 6 passes for 60 yards, which I mean
with 13 incompletions and an interception, but in his first game where he's really throwing the football, obviously
he's got to find
one of 1 or 1 for 2 in that game last week. So, it's just a matter of he's a young guy. He got the rushing score last week. He showed off the legs a little bit more here today. 10 carries, 31 yards. He needs to be more confident in the pocket, though, and that comes with more experience. The Bears did come out and say, so long as Dalton is healthy, he is our starting quarterback from now on. It's still Dalton's game to lose. And, I think when you have a guy go 9 of 11, it doesn't really matter about the yards that he puts up. When you only miss 2 passes in the game, he's sticking in there as your starter.
That's out of that stat line. That's probably the best thing positive about, because, like you said, 56 yards is like it's not good.
It's abysmal.
Yeah, I mean, I think they need more on the ground as well. I mean, Dalton led the team in rushing yards per carry on 2 carries, 25 yards. David Montgomery, who's a guy they really wanted to rely on in the ground game, especially with a young Justin Fields, got 20 carries and 61 yards because of it. You need more than 3 yards per carry, frankly. In a game like this where it was low scoring, they can rely on that. But when you're going into a game where you need to score 28, 30-plus points, 61 yards on 20 carries is not going to do it.
No.
And this is just another one team finding that guy. I mean, I think the guy for them is Dalton. Who's number 2 then at that point? Who's sticking up next to be that guy out there on the field? Because when you're looking at Super Bowl contenders, AFC Championship, NFC Championship contenders, you look at, do they have the guys? It's not just being a total team. Because being a team is fine. You can be a good team, and go a decent way. You're not winning it all with a good team. You need great players with a good team. Who is their great player? Dalton?
And like you said, Alec, I mean, if they get one guy, possibly 2 would be really better if they got 2 guys going. This was a playoff team last year.
Right.
So if they get 1 guy or 2 would be more beneficial for them. That's what you want to see for the Bears. That's pretty much what they're missing last year, especially even though they're a playoff team. That's really what they're missing now.
Right, and they're 1-1, and they go up against the Browns in Cleveland next Sunday. We'll obviously preview that one come Friday. But, Browns are looking like a strong team that can really, pound the ball and show some strength and physicality down the stretch. And you like to see that from Cleveland. But, the Bears have got to find themselves, because we've already kind of talked about this whole group with the Lions and the Raiders and the Packers, their next 3 opponents. I mean, the next 4 opponents with the Browns being one of them. So it's a tough stretch before they then go into the defending champions and the Buccaneers. Then they get to host the 49ers. Then they have to go to play the Steelers. Then they have to host the Ravens before going back against the Lions. Then the Cardinals and the Packers. They don't have an off week till December 20th. And we don't even know if that'll be it against the Vikings.
I think it's tough schedule. It's one of the better
awful
ones.
schedules to have to play. And, if Justin... I think I know why they have Andy Dalton as their quarterback this year. They don't want to put Justin Fields out there and let him get murdered for, 13 straight weeks. Yeah. We got a long season this year. They want it for next year. So maybe that's why, and then on the flip side of this, you go look at the Bengals schedule. Obviously, they get head out to Pittsburgh this weekend and take on the Steelers. Then they get to host the Jaguars, which Trevor Lawrence is kind of on the up and up now. He found a little bit better rhythm. We'll talk Jaguars tomorrow or later on this week. I don't remember exactly when I put them in there. But then they get to play the Packers and Lions and Ravens, and we're looking at these schedules. Like all these teams we're talking about right now are facing each other, and they're all still only trying to find themselves still. And it's kind of becoming that toss-up. In the next 5 weeks or so, I think we're going to already see who is going to the end of this season, on top. I think these next 5 weeks, like I'm saying by week 7, we're going to know who is who in the NFL.
Especially in this conference here.
Right. AFC North will solidify itself by the 7-week mark. Even with the Bears, Packers, Detroit, all those guys are going to be solidified on who they are. And we're going to get down to a point very quickly here on who is who's coming out on top. And I think it'll be fairly easy to predict the last half of this season.
Yeah. By then, the Rams hopefully find that 3rd guy they're talking about. I mean, it's early. So,
final NFL game we're going to talk about here before we make the switch over to college football at our 34-point mark. We're going to go Texans versus the Browns. And this was a good one for the Browns. And guys, what's the quarter I always talk about?
First quarter.
No. The quarter you have to win. I say this all the time.
Third.
Yeah. The third quarter. What did the Browns do in the third quarter? 10-0. 10-0 in the third quarter. They split every single quarter but the third. They were 7-7 in the first and the second and the fourth. But that third quarter was all it needed. And you win the third quarter, you win the football game.
Yeah, and they snapped what the Texans had going in the first half. They were playing well. I mean, they were playing well enough to win that game. So I mean,
give credit. Terrell Taylor did go down after going 10 of 11 for 125 yards and a touchdown. They bring in Davis Mills, 8 of 18, a 102 touchdown and interception, which I would say pretty good for a guy that wasn't expecting to play. Yeah. You know, on the ground they need to do more, but you know it's so hard to move the ball against that front for Cleveland. They really stacked up that defensive line this season. Yeah. It looks good. They got some good pressure into the quarterbacks. Obviously didn't affect Terrell Taylor. And Terrell Taylor, he's still a damn good quarterback.
Yeah, he is. He's very good.
And you know, all this time about bringing Deshaun Watson back, and like, why?
Why?
10 of 11? I'll take that over a guy that doesn't want to play.
It's like a resurgence for him. You know, he had great career.
A resurgence. He's never had a bad year.
I know, but like, I mean, he hasn't played. That's why.
Yeah.
I mean, he went to Cleveland. Baker took over, and then he went to the Chargers, and then you know that became Herbert's team. Yeah.
After he got stabbed in the chest by the doctor.
Yeah.
That was crazy. But the ground game, Texans have got to move it more. Ingram just 41 yards and. You're looking down, receiving core. They found one guy. They had a bunch of other guys with one reception. But Brandon Cooks, the guy we talked about from week 1 with the Texans, still getting 99 receptions for 78 yards and a touchdown. He's kind of that guy that's showing himself up. He's potentially their number one guy, depending on whether they can get Watson back or if Terrell Taylor becomes that guy for them. But you know, Taylor to Cooks is becoming a lethal combination here early on in the season.
Now still have Danny Amendola, so him get some more receptions.
Well, yeah, Matt. I mean, you take a look at their skill player list. I mean, this isn't a terrible team like everybody was making it sound like. I mean, they lost a lot of people, but they also brought in some notable players, so they're not a terrible team.
They're not. But listen, I'm going to say this over and over. Would you rather have David Johnson or DeAndre Hopkins? Why would you?
Well, we all know the answer to that.
I know. I that's why
I don't think anyone can say that the Texans won that trade. I don't think anyone can say.
6 carries, 25 yards.
I don't think they're
not bad.
It's not bad, but
still better than what Najee put up, wasn't
it? I mean, but they gave up DeAndre. No, Hopkins. Harris did better.
Yeah, what did he have? 10 carries for 30 yards?
Oh, no.
Here, it's right here. I'll pull it.
Pull it up.
Steelers, Najee, 10 carries, 38. So he averaged 3.8 yards per carry. And then you want to go here with the Texans, Johnson, 4.2. Okay. So better than your rookie. Yeah. So, you know what? Well, what do we look at with running backs? Rookie season is their season. Zeke, Saquon, both those guys, their first seasons, they lit up the league.
Yeah.
Even Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
You know, you look at a guy in their first year. What has Najee done in his first year? Through 2 games, he's still under 100 yards.
Well, I mean, we talked about the offensive line.
Yeah.
Saquon's
working in New York.
Yeah.
With the Giants.
Yeah.
And it was okay his first year.
His first year, but I mean, they got Billy Price, but
this season
you got to have more than one guy. Though.
Yeah.
And he was part of that Bengals unit that wasn't great last year.
No.
Yeah.
He causes a lot of penalties on the offensive line.
Yeah.
He was great at Ohio State. I love him for that. But here in the NFL, he has been a liability on the line.
Yeah.
But let's flip this over to the Brown side of things. Can we talk about the day Baker had? 19 of 21, and one of those incompletions was an interception. So really, 20 of his passes got caught.
And that interception,
just one of them was thrown by the wrong guy.
The interception really wasn't his fault. There was some miscommunications there. So, I mean, overall, it was a great day for him.
Great day for him. I'd like to find the end zone a little bit more, but when you get 3 rushing touchdowns and one of them coming from the fullback position, Andy Yanovich, you know, and Nick Chubb got one. I mean, his touchdown was huge. He just was pounding over everybody. Literally, did you guys see the highlight of Chubb just running through everybody?
I haven't gotten far yet.
And the one run he took everybody on his back. He got a little push from his offensive lineman, and then he carried everybody like extra 5 yards. He's just
11 carries, 95 yards, 8.6 yards per carry. That is what you want. Kareem Hunt coming right behind him, 13 carries, 51 yards. Don't know why Kareem really gets 2 more carries than Chubb, but Chubb did everything he needed to win that game. And Janovich, despite getting 0 yards, had a touchdown on 2 carries. So I'll take a touchdown as a fullback.
Yeah.
I like it. I mean, I think this was an overall great day for the Browns, despite the fact that we lost Jarvis. So really, we're waiting on. We're going to lose Jarvis and have Odell come back. We're never going to get the two on the same field ever again. I don't think. Schwartz, though, the guy we were talking about week 1, no receptions. Nothing for him. And instead we have Demetric Felton as our leading wide receiver, with Harrison Bryant as our second, Austin Hooper as our third, and then Higgins as our fourth, with our fifth being Njoku. 3 of our top 5 receivers from this game were tight ends.
Oh, yeah.
Their tight end room's
Then
pretty
you got Peoples-Jones,
who had 1 reception.
Yeah.
It's like, despite the fact that we went 19-21, we really didn't have anything going on. I mean, Malcolm Smith on defense had the interception, which was great, but then we had Delpit with a sack in his first game with the Browns.
It was good to see him out there.
Good to see him out there, and he smoked up Davis Mills, the quarterback, on that one. Came in on a quarterback blitz and just, boom, smacked him down on the ground. It looked like it hurt. But, I liked this game from the Browns. I thought it was a good one. It's what they needed. I think here in week 2, after that week 1 loss to the Chiefs, that was so narrow. They needed to come out and play consistently for 4 quarters, because you go to that game against the Chiefs, they didn't have 4 consistent quarters. They did today, and that's why they won. You have to win every single quarter. You have to score in every single quarter in the NFL if you want that championship status.
Yeah.
That's what the Chiefs did against the Browns. That's what the Buccaneers and the Cowboys did against one another. They score every quarter.
I mean, especially when you're going up against teams like the Chiefs and, like you said, the Cowboys going up against the defending champs. Yeah, you probably can score and keep up in the first half, but like you always talk about that third quarter. Are you going to come out flat, or are you going to come out good to keep yourself in the game?
Right. Third quarter decided the game. So let's move off the NFL here. 20 minutes to go. About Alabama Crimson Tide narrowly pulling off the win against the number 11 Florida Gators. And boys, what a great game this was. And Bryce Young did all right too. 22-35, 233 yards, 3 touchdowns. But let's talk about this second half comeback from the Gators, as you were just saying there. They outscored Alabama 20-10 in that second half.
We just got done with the game calling, and you're like, hey, what's that score? And the Bama Florida game. I'm like, God, it's 21-3. And like, oh, it's over. And they came back.
Right, that's the first quarter.
Yeah, that was the first
quarter. They didn't score
quarter.
in the second. They scored just a touchdown in the third and a field goal in the fourth to win it.
Yeah.
It was not the game we were expecting. I said I think Alabama was going to have this by halftime and by 4 scores.
Yeah.
I said at least 3 touchdowns.
Right. And after a 21-3 first quarter, I was like, all right, my prediction wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
And then you see that final score, and you're like, what happened? And you look on the other side, Emory Jones didn't throw a touchdown pass.
No.
Damian Pierce had 2 touchdowns. Malik Davis had a touchdown. Then Emory Jones ran it in for a touchdown, but nothing about them stands out to the point where it looks like somebody had a great day to really stop Alabama. It took a team effort, and it really does take a team effort to stop Alabama in any game. You need the defense to really hold on until your offense can do something. If Emory Jones has a better day at quarterback, they win this ballgame.
Yeah.
And I think this means Florida might just be a serious contender this year in both the SEC and potential on a national level if they can, run out the rest of the year. I mean, when you look at their schedule, upcoming, they host Tennessee. I mean, they go to Kentucky, Vanderbilt, LSU. I mean, those games will be a few good tune-up games before they host Georgia and the Florida-Georgia rivalry October 30th. But then from there on out, it's a cupcake schedule. South Carolina, Samford, an FCS opponent in the late season, Missouri, and then they finish out the season in the Battle of Florida between Florida and Florida State. So, I mean, it's a good run.
Yeah.
If they can then go in and knock off number 2 Georgia here in a couple of weeks, that'll decide, the SEC East?
Yeah.
So Florida can make this a rally, come back, take Georgia's spot, then take on Alabama here in the SEC championship, could potentially knock them out of the playoffs.
And like you said, Alec, I mean, Alabama struggled to stop the run. I mean, Florida ran it 43 times for 245 yards.
Right.
And they averaged more plays per yard than Alabama did. Alabama dominated early on, like you said, but Florida hung in there. And if they can do this, they did it against Alabama. If they can, like you said, against Georgia, they can do it against them. They have outside of that, they have a fairly easy schedule. So if they can hang around there and play good against Georgia so they can beat them, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Alabama's schedule, coming up, they take on Southern Miss. Not great, but I like these next 2 matchups for them after they host Southern Mississippi. They face Ole Miss, who's ranked number 13th. then I think they'll take an
Yeah.
easy game against A&M, who I don't think is a top 10 opponent. And I think those are these two very strong games for them to really show, hey, we are still number one in the country. We pulled off a close game against the number 11 team in Florida. Then they'll have to do it against Ole Miss and then Texas A&M. So, I mean, 3 of these 4 games for them are going to be difficult. I don't think Southern Miss is going to give them any problems. But once they kind of come over this, little hurdle between Ole Miss and Texas A&M, you go down the end of their season, hosting Arkansas in Auburn. So 2 straight games to end out the season. Alabama, by no stretch, has that same easy schedule that we're used to out of them. They are facing the beef and potatoes of the SEC.
What does this game say? Now, before we were saying, Alabama, they're going to dominate no matter what. They're going to go repeat. Does this game say anything? Do you think they'll still go?
Yes,
It
actually,
matters.
I do. Because you look at this game, 21-3.
Yeah.
Then they get dogged on for the next 2 quarters after that, getting outscored 20-7. You look at that, and then look at the way the team responds after that.
Yeah.
Coming out 4th quarter in 1-possession ball game, something we never see Alabama in.
No.
A 1-possession game. What did they do?
They prevailed.
They won the game. What we haven't seen Alabama in the regular season have to pull one out in the 4th quarter. If anything, this showed this Alabama team's better because they could perform when the going gets tough.
Yeah.
When you don't have the performance where you need to hold on in the end and have the defense come up strong in the 4th quarter. Play a full 4 quarters of football where you're going 110% the whole way out. Sometimes we've seen some of these teams get down to the college football playoff. In game 1, they come out and lay an egg because they haven't had real competition all year long. And Ohio State's one of those teams. Oklahoma, Notre Dame, Florida State, those are the other ones who, in Washington, those are the other teams we've seen come out and just come out flat because they haven't had real competition all season long. Alabama hasn't had that problem. They've been able to dominate during the season and dominate in the playoffs. But I'd like to see here that Bama came out, and when the going went tough, they relied on their guys to get it done, and they got it done. I think this only proves more that Alabama is the team we think they are.
I absolutely
That's
agree.
exactly where I was going to go.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
All right, well, we're going to have to speed through it here last 13 minutes.
Yep.
We'll spend a little more time on this one.
Yeah.
Auburn Tigers, Penn State, the whiteout.
Man.
It lived up to the hype, man, didn't it? It came down to the very end. Penn State's defense coming up. Of course, it was Penn State's defense coming up with the biggest plays.
Listen, our defense, I know I'm being a little biased. Our defense is elite.
Yeah.
They are elite.
Especially
they got
through these first 3
Brisker.
games. I mean,
you held an SEC team to 20 points or less.
Brisker is insane. Ooh, I keep forgetting his name. Oh, man.
PJ Mustard.
He's good, too, but number 9.
Porter.
Yeah, Joey Porter Jr., the son of Joey Porter, the guy who was smacking people around back in his NFL day. That kid is a stud. Holy cow.
I like Castro Fields, too.
Yeah.
He's the guy
great-
who had
they got
only 2
great-
tackles in the game, but they played good. They played solid. I mean, they had that entire defense coming in there to help them. Brandon Smith with the 6 solo tackles. I mean, it was a good game for them defensively.
Yeah.
But, I think offensively they were even better. I mean, Noah Kane could have get it done on the ground, but 28 of 32 with 1 interception for Sean Clifford with 2 touchdowns in that ball game. Averaged 10 yards per reception with 280 yards. I mean, that offense rolled to a T. They did what they needed to do. 28 catches, 280 yards, 28 points. They all kind of added up quite nicely there, and they came out to a win. I liked their performance. And you go to the other side, Bo Nix is not a good quarterback. I don't know why he gets this hype every single year. He doesn't perform in big games.
He doesn't.
I mean, the only reason this game was close because it was Bigsby. 23 carries, 102 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, Bo Nix has not showed any ability to be an elite quarterback here in college football.
No.
He got put on a great team with Auburn in a great conference and hasn't been able to produce. I mean, obviously, yes, he's going up against great defenses every single week. But what do great quarterbacks do against great defenses? Play their best. Sean Clifford. Sean Clifford against a great defense played his best. You cannot ask for a better game from Sean Clifford.
Clifford was great. I think they need to get they're clicking better on offense than they did from the Wisconsin game. I think they progressed.
And that.
But a couple of guys I'd like to see him get going more. Love it.
Yeah.
He is a force to be reckoned with.
If there's
they
one
got
thing,
the ball a couple of times and he was trucking people.
Yeah,
just twice.
Just twice, too, for 9 yards, right?
Yeah, and then they had the one reception to win 18.
Yeah.
You know, Matt, if I'm talking to you, a Penn State fan, and there's one thing that I need to see more of is their running game.
The running game.
Because they have, like I tell Alec all the time, he's been saying, I want to see it. They have the talent to be a great running back. They have
a potential three-headed monster here with Kane, Lee, and Lovett. I say run them around and run them in circles. Keep rotating them in and out. That will keep defenses on edge.
And that's
what
they get set over one guy. Their run game, and they have produced well between Teague, Mayan Williams, and Travion Henderson, who we'll talk to quickly here at the end of the show. But
they settle in on one guy, boom, switch it out. Now they got to readjust, and it screws them all up. I say keep going with those guys. Those guys are awesome. Yeah. Keep getting dots in the ball. Parker Washington, that guy is just. He's going to get better.
Two more things here before we move on.
Go ahead.
I know it's 3 games so far, and we got a long way to go. But 2 top 25 wins. One was on the road. One was against an SEC team at home. That's something to be proud of.
Yeah.
Their defense is something that you have to keep paying attention to because they're bend. James Franklin uses terms a lot. They're a bend but don't break defense. They bend a lot, but they're able to hold the ground and keep things close. And we talked about on last week's show, is it Ohio State's conference still to win? I don't know if it is anymore.
I don't know if it is.
I mean, after this game, I still don't think.
Alec, they didn't look too good against Tulsa.
I didn't say it was their conference to win.
Wait,
I'm the one that went on Ohio State last week and said this isn't their conference. If it's not theirs, who is it? I'm the one that posed the question. It's not Ohio State.
I'm not done.
Let Mike finish. I get to you.
I still want to see Ohio State get beaten. Until then, I'm still on the edge. I'm not guaranteeing Ohio State's done. But they got stuff to work on. But it's Ohio State.
It's Ohio State.
But there's more. It's more wide open than it has been. You got Iowa. You got Penn State. There's other teams that can challenge them.
Absolutely. Iowa's going to be gone. If we can beat Iowa, we shouldn't go. Sure as hell can beat Ohio State. But
not so fast.
I don't know,
listen.
That's a very different team. Those are two very different teams. Talking Ohio State and Iowa, those are two very different offenses, two very different defenses, style-wise.
But it's still a hostile environment we're going to be going into.
Both of them.
Both of them. So at least we'll have that.
Yeah.
But look, they pulled it out. They pulled it at the end, and they won. And they were trying to do stuff on defense. I'm talking about Ohio State.
New defense coordinator.
Yeah, they were trying things out. So maybe that's why. They didn't look good at all.
We had a lot of starters out too that I didn't realize. I didn't catch it from the beginning of the game, and then we keep hearing throughout the game. It's like all these starters. And I'm like, well, I mean, for not having a lot of those guys in, the defense played a lot better.
Yeah,
I think.
I mean,
the offense. This week, it wasn't the defense being the problem. No. It was the offense. And we're not going to talk the Ohio State game in total here, but we'll get to Travion Henderson's game here later on.
Yeah.
But how about we move on here so we have enough time to get to that there.
Yeah.
Cincinnati versus Indiana. Cincinnati, the Bearcats rolled through Indiana. Took the Hoosiers by force, 38-24. Ritter was okay. He didn't have the game I think he should have.
Especially in the first half.
That first half, not his game, but 28 points in the second half for Cincinnati. It led the charge for this game. This was a game they were down 14-10 at half. It wasn't looking good. Then they came out and smacked them. I mean, it was Cincinnati's game. This is what they built on. I mean, and they weren't necessarily strong in one area. I mean, run game was okay. Pass game was okay. Their defense held strong, though, in that second half. Forced 3 interceptions on Michael Penix Jr. Stopped the run game from Indiana for a little bit. I mean, the run game was still pretty good overall. And I think this was a great game for Cincinnati's defense. Held Michael Penix Jr. to 17 of 40 through the air. So I think a great game overall by the Bearcats. I think this is a team that now has a good few wins has got their first good win under their belt. They have the off week. They get an extra week to come in prepared to go to South Bend, Indiana, to take on Notre Dame October 2nd. That is the game that everyone's schedule should have marked in red. Absolutely. If Cincinnati is the team we think they are, this is the game.
Well, and I was also, Alec, this is a game I thought they could have been challenged in against Indiana, and they were. But, a Big Ten opponent on the road, they're trying to get more of these big wins to boost their resume up because they're a non-conference or non-Power 5. But yeah, with the Notre Dame game coming up, it's another tough challenge for them on the road. We'll see what they do.
Yep. Well, 2 segments left here on the show. Travion Henderson, the future Ohio State legendary running back, potentially broke the Ohio State single-game freshman rushing record, surpassing the only 2-time Heisman Trophy winner, Archie Griffin, with 243 rushing yards on the game, 3 touchdown runs. And man, did he just show some intense power, speed. The guy runs 100 meters in sub 11 seconds. You know he's got speed, and he showed he's got the power. Just start running through guys, running them over, and man, was it his ball game. We won because of Henderson.
Yeah.
It wasn't Stroud. It wasn't Master Teague. Lion Williams didn't get much playing time. Don't know why he should have. But Henderson started dominating this ball game, and they handed it to him in the second half when our offense was struggling, and he busted them wide open. I mean, they should have been running him in the first half, and who knows how many yards he could have had. He's now third all-time in single-game rushing performances at Ohio State, behind Eddie George and Trey Sermon from the Big Ten championship game last year.
Wow.
In his second game, and his first official start. He had the first carry, so he got the start for today, or for Saturday, technically. He still shared
Let's
reps.
keep it going, then.
Second game,
Wow.
and he did all this. Zeke couldn't say that.
No.
And we say Zeke is potentially the best running back that Ohio State's ever had. I mean, considering he almost single-leggedly won us the national championship.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Henderson, baby O Henderson.
Whew.
And, you know, with the last name Henderson, I changed it out for Travion Recordsson because he's just going to keep breaking these things. I got a good feeling about this guy. You know, you guys have been saying all their stuff about Penn State and all the good guys you got. This is the guy for Ohio
This
State.
is the guy that we need to stop.
Good luck. Good luck to anyone wanting to come out here and stop the Travion Henderson.
Vote yes.
Will Ohio State win the Big Ten this season? You want me to vote yes? All right. Heard it here first. Matt thinks Ohio State's winning the Big
Well,
Ten
I
this
just
season.
want to look. It says no, 60%.
You said yes, though, so
Well, I mean,
you could have told me to say no.
I wasn't gonna make you vote no. You like what, guys?
You know what? Until they lose the Big Ten, as Micah said,
Yeah.
it's still theirs to lose.
It's still theirs to lose.
They run the Big Ten. What's it? 3 straight championships for them. There's a lot of teams, though, that have been coming up and challenging in these last few seasons. But as Micah said time and time again, it's yours until you lose it. To be the man, you got to beat the man. And right now, Ohio State is the man until they're not. And this could be the year they are proving that they are not, with teams like Iowa, Penn State, Michigan, all coming up and all looking very good. Rutgers is just on the outside looking into the AP top 25. So a lot of teams coming up here looking really good in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to challenge Ohio State this year. And there are a lot of question marks on whether or not they can pull it out. Keep in mind, it is just a young quarterback, so it's hard to say CJ Stroud isn't the guy yet because it's his first season and it is what it is. He's finding himself 2 games or 3 games in. It's not looking great so far. Still plenty of room to go, plenty of time to improve. He reminds me of JT Barrett, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, good comparison.
Yeah. So we're going to finish things off here with our newest award, and I'm not sure if you want me to do this like the last one.
I don't know. Just do it the way
Come up
you
with
want.
something.
Come up with something.
something?
You're good at coming up with things on the fly, so just come up with something.
Oh boy, here we are. We're going to finish off the show with our newest award. Matt's got an idea for this one, so we'll test it out and let us know if you like it or not. This week's Beast of the Week, baby!
Beast of the Week, okay? And I could go with any guy pretty much in the NFL.
Travion Henderson.
No.
Beasted?
He did. But I kind of like to go for, the lower level types of people. You know what I'm talking about? Like the guys that you've heard of this guy, but like nobody thinks they're going to do this. Like, it has to be something insane. I'm going to pick out the insane.
Well, hurry up. We got like a minute
I know.
left.
So this week's Beast of the Week is Bobby Wagner of Seattle Seahawks. This guy's been in the league 10 years. Former member of the Legion of Boom. He's like the main guy with them. And, 17 tackles, 16 solo tackles,
16 by
1
himself.
sack. By himself! That's insane! That's
That
a
hurts.
beast!
Bobby Wagner, the veteran, still getting it
Oh,
done.
he's still getting it
I like
done.
Bobby
That's pure beast right there.
Beast of the Week, baby!
Beast of the Week.
There
we
we
do
go.
that every Monday, and I'll start doing it on TikTok too.
All right, well, that'll do it here for this show. Monday's edition in the books. Matt and I will be on tomorrow talking high school recap and more NFL and college, so make sure you tune in for that. We'll be back tomorrow. I've been Alec, Matt on one side, Mike on the other. We'll see you tomorrow.